I always thought cold feet would be about me. Like I'd wake up in a panic, look at the seating chart, and suddenly be convinced that floral centerpieces were a scam and monogamy was invented by Big Cake. But 3 days before the wedding, I'm not the one freezing. I'm the guy staring at a photo on my phone so long my eyes ache, and the room goes pin-drop silent except for the buzzing in my ears. The picture is from Angie's bachelorette, posted by the florist's teenage intern of all people, because he tagged our wedding account in a story montage titled Bridey Night. There's Angie in a white sash, hair pinned up like a halo, champagne in hand. And then there's a mirror behind her, the kind salons put on every surface so you can see the back of your head and, apparently, your sins. In the mirror, Angie is kissing someone. His face is half hidden, but the watch isn't. A chunky silver Omega with a distinctive blue bezel. It's William's watch. Her boss. Married. Father of two. Framed Christmas card from his family on his office shelf like a warning label. I tell myself it could be anyone. Men own watches. Mirrors distort. Champagne lies. But the caption's geotag matches a private lounge William bragged about comping for team morale last quarter, and there's a blurred nameplate on the table that reads, WM. My stomach flips like it's been unplugged. I don't confront her right away. I do what quiet people do. I save, I zoom, I note timestamps. I scroll the other tagged stories. The intern caught everything. Shaky pans, glittering shots, a quick boomerang where Angie ducks out of frame, and someone's hand, William's ring, distinctive square set, lands on her waist. The ring I recognize because he showed it off at the office holiday party, bragging about the custom engraving. Loyalty, he said. Oh, the irony. By the time Angie gets home, I've built a small, private courtroom in my head. She's flushed and buzzing, smelling like vanilla and nightclub fog. She tosses me a grin that used to feel like sunrise. You'll never believe the night we had. She laughs, stumbling out of her heels. I hear myself ask, lightly, about the lounge. She stiffens. Says they popped in for a sec. Nothing major. I mention the intern's story. She says she didn't see any intern. I mention the watch. She says everyone has watches. I mention the ring. She says I'm being paranoid. And then, like fate is bored, my phone pings. It's a DM from an account I don't recognize. You don't know me, but you should sit down. There's a zip file link and a message. Check the last 6 months. I don't click it immediately because my hands are shaking and Angie is watching me with pupils like pinpricks. But I know, in that sharp, terrible way you can know a thing before you prove it, that the ground just tilted under my life. Alex, she says. It's small. A question, a plea, a warning. I pocket the phone and smile in a way that isn't a smile at all. Tell me everything. I say. I didn't open the file until after Angie fell asleep. She curled against me like nothing was wrong, like we weren't teetering on the edge of disaster, and I just lay there stiff as a board, staring at the ceiling while her breathing slowed. When she finally drifted off, I slipped out of bed, shut myself in the bathroom, and opened the link. The zip extracted into a folder called Truth for Alex. Inside were screenshots, hundreds, emails, texts, hotel confirmations, a spreadsheet with dates and locations. My stomach lurched when I realized the person who sent this wasn't just some troll. They'd been keeping records. The first screenshots were of Angie's work email. Little things. Thanks for the late night help. W. Winky face. Or dinner at La Havre again. Then the text got worse. Explicit. Secret. Familiar. Angie had been telling me she was working late for 6 months, and here it was spelled out. She was in hotel rooms with William while I sat home making sure her dog had his medication on time. Then I hit a photo folder. They weren't nudes, thank God, but candids. Grainy, taken from a distance. Angie and William leaving a hotel lobby together, his hand low on her back. Them in his car, parked outside her apartment. One shot made my skin crawl. William's hand holding hers across a restaurant table, and right there in the foreground was my reflection in the window, waiting on the sidewalk to surprise her after girls' night. She must have seen me, because the next message in the folder was from her to William. Close call. He didn't notice. You're worth the risk. I couldn't breathe. It felt like every memory we'd built was being set on fire in front of me. Then I saw something worse. Screenshots of Angie chatting with my supposed friends. Jason, who I've known since high school, telling her she could do better than Alex. Even Emily, who Angie had introduced me to, calling me boring but stable. The kicker? They weren't just gossiping. They were helping cover for her, lending excuses, running interference. Emily texted Angie. I told Alex we were together Saturday. Don't worry, he bought it. That's when I realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was a whole damn network. And whoever sent me this file wanted me to know every inch of it. I was shaking so hard I dropped my phone into the sink. My first instinct was to wake Angie and scream, to shove the evidence in her face and demand why. But then I remembered her expression earlier when I hinted at knowing. That flicker of panic she'd smothered under denial. She was ready to lie, ready to keep lying, probably even ready to flip it on me. You're paranoid, you're controlling, you're imagining things. No, if she'd spent 6 months weaving this web, I wasn't going to cut it clumsily. I was going to burn it down. So I forwarded the entire folder to a secure drive, locked it with a password only I knew, and deleted the original messages. My hands still trembling, I typed back to the anonymous sender. Who are you? And what do you want from me? They replied within minutes. Not important. Just know you're not alone. The city festival in 2 weeks will be illuminating. Be ready. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. The festival was where Angie and I were supposed to make our first public appearance as husband and wife. Now it was something else entirely. The next morning, Angie acted like nothing was wrong. She made pancakes, her peace-offering breakfast, and hummed while flipping them like some perfect fiancé in a commercial. She even kissed my cheek, the same lips I'd seen pressed against William's in that cursed mirror. I chewed, smiled, nodded, all while my stomach churned like a storm. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. At first, I thought it was wedding spam, reminders, vendor check-ins, but when I finally glanced at the screen, my blood ran cold. It was the screenshots, the ones I'd seen last night. They were all over town. Someone, maybe my anonymous ally, had started leaking them to group chats, private Facebook groups, even the city subreddit. Posts titled, "Guess Who's Cheating with Her Boss?" and "Wedding Drama Incoming" filled the feed. People blurred names at first, but the photos made it obvious. Angie in that hotel lobby, William's hand on her thigh at dinner. Our community wasn't that big. It spread like wildfire. By noon, I had 3 voicemails from friends. Bro, what's going on with Angie? You need to see this. Please tell me this is fake. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I called Mark, my oldest friend, the one person I knew I could trust. He picked up on the first ring. Alex, he said, voice sharp. You've seen it, right? Yeah, I whispered. Good. Don't talk to her yet. Don't talk to anyone. Just meet me tonight. There's more you need to know. When I hung up, Angie walked in, holding her phone with a shaky hand. Her face was pale. Alex, people are saying things online. Her voice cracked, but there was calculation in her eyes. They're lies. You have to believe me. Lies? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Yes. She rushed forward, grabbing my arm. Someone's trying to destroy us. Probably one of your jealous friends. You know how they've always been weird about us. Funny, because the files had shown those same friends covering for her. I pulled away gently. We'll figure it out, I said, forcing calm. Inside, my anger was a volcano. That night, I met Mark in the back booth of a dingy bar. He slid a manila envelope across the table. What's this? I asked. Proof, he said. I've been watching William for months. You're not the first person he's done this to, Alex. But this time, it's bigger. People are protecting him. Your fiancé's just one part of it. I opened the envelope. Inside were photos, receipts, even a credit card statement showing William booking multiple hotel rooms under fake names. But then I saw something worse, screenshots of text threads between William and Angie. In one, she wrote, "Once I'm married, we can use his money to finally get out. He's so clueless." My chest went cold. I'd thought maybe, deep down, Angie had loved me once. But these messages? They weren't just about sneaking around. She was plotting. Using me. Mark leaned in. You have enough to end them both. But you need to be smart. The festival? That's your stage. If you play it right, you'll expose everything. I clenched the envelope so hard the paper bent. For the first time in days, I felt something besides despair. I felt purpose. But just as we stood to leave, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Careful, Alex. Not all your friends are on your side. One of them will betray you next. The warning text gnawed at me all night. I barely slept, lying awake with the manila envelope under my pillow like some twisted security blanket. By morning, Angie was already on damage control mode. She'd plastered on her sweetest smile, was calling relatives, telling them that jealous people were spreading lies to ruin our happiness. Her voice was syrupy, but I could see the cracks in her eyes, panic, desperation. Meanwhile, the internet was on fire. A local gossip blog had already picked up the leaks, splashing a headline that screamed, "Wedding of the Year" or "Scandal of the Century." The comments section was a battlefield, half the city swearing they'd seen Angie and William sneaking around, the other half insisting people should mind their own business. I left the house under the pretense of running errands and met Mark again. He was wired, jittery, like he hadn't slept either. "All right," he said, slamming his coffee down. "I've set up a meeting with a private investigator I know. Guy's solid. Can help us pull more dirt on William. Maybe even track where these leaks are coming from." It sounded good. Too good. The warning text replayed in my head. "One of them will betray you next." I tested him. "Mark, you're sure you're with me on this?" He looked offended. "Of course, man. You're my brother. Why would you even?" He stopped when he saw my expression. His jaw tightened. "Listen, if you don't trust me, you'll end up alone in this. That's exactly what they want." I wanted to believe him. But then, later that afternoon, it happened. I got a call from Emily, the same friend I'd seen in the screenshots covering for Angie. Her voice was trembling, fake innocent. "Alex, I just talked to Angie. She's devastated. She says you're getting paranoid, letting Mark poison you against her. Please, don't throw away your future because of rumors." It hit me like a hammer. Angie knew I'd met with Mark. I hadn't told her. Only he knew, which meant the betrayal was already happening. That night, I set a trap. I left a fake note in my unlocked desk drawer, scribbled hastily. "Meet PI Friday at 9 a.m. outside the train station. Big reveal coming." Then I waited. The next morning, sure enough, William himself showed up at the station, sitting in his shiny black BMW, scanning the crowd like a hawk. He looked tense, angry, tapping his steering wheel. Mark had sold me out. But here's the twist. While William was sitting there, expecting to intercept me, I was across the street with a disposable camera, snapping photo after photo. Proof he was watching me. Proof he was involved. When I got home, Angie was waiting. Too calm. "Did you go somewhere this morning?" she asked sweetly, sipping her coffee. "Just a walk," I said, forcing a smile. But inside, I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was done playing defense. The betrayal had clarified everything. This wasn't just about Angie's affair. It was about people trying to make me the fool, trying to silence me. Fine. Let them think they're ahead. I was done being quiet. The festival wasn't just going to be a reveal. It was going to be war. 2 days later, I met the private investigator. His name was Harris, a grizzled guy with silver hair, a limp, and eyes that had seen too much. He didn't bother with pleasantries. He just slid a recorder across the table at the diner where we met. "Tell me everything," he said, sipping black coffee. So I did. The photo, the file, the leaks, the betrayal. He didn't flinch, didn't even blink. When I was finished, he leaned back, tapping his pen against the notepad he'd filled with sharp, tiny handwriting. "Good," Harris said. "You've already got more than most people ever do. But you need structure. Evidence isn't just what you know, it's how you present it. Right now, you've got pieces. I'll help you turn it into a weapon." He asked for access to the folder I'd been sent. Within minutes, he was tracing metadata, flagging patterns. Whoever your mystery ally is, they're organized. These weren't just casual leaks. They were timed, deliberate. Someone wants the world to see this. That scared me almost as much as it comforted me. Meanwhile, Angie and William were scrambling. Word spread that William's wife had left town suddenly to visit family. People whispered she'd found out everything. Angie started avoiding public places, claiming she was stressed about the wedding. But Harris's network fed me the truth. They were meeting constantly, hiding out in a rented Airbnb on the edge of town, plotting damage control. Then Harris dropped the bomb. "It's not just about cheating," he said, sliding me another stack of documents. "William's been laundering money through the company. Angie's involved. Maybe not knowingly, maybe not at first, but she's in deep now. If you expose this, it won't just ruin their reputations. It could ruin their lives." I stared at the papers. Bank transfers. Shell companies. Receipts for luxury items bought under false names. And tucked inside the pile, Angie's signature, authorizing expense reports that were clearly bogus. She thought she was signing off on client dinners, Harris explained. But legally, it ties her to him. My fiancée wasn't just betraying me. She was a pawn in something much bigger, and maybe, just maybe, she'd been too blinded by William to see it. I felt a flicker of pity. It died quickly. She'd still chosen this. That night, Harris and I planned. He wanted to wait until the festival, when half the town would be there, cameras rolling, gossip primed. Public exposure makes it harder for them to spin it, he said. And if William tries to strong-arm you, he'll do it in front of witnesses. I nodded, though my hands trembled under the table. I wasn't a fighter, not really. But something inside me was hardening. Before I left, Harris handed me a flash drive. Everything you need is on here. Don't lose it. I slipped it into my pocket, heavy as a bullet. And just when I thought I had control again, I got another text from the anonymous number. Good progress, Alex. But careful, your enemy's not just William. One more name is hiding in the shadows. Look closer. I froze, staring at the screen. How many people in my life were part of this web? By now I thought I'd mapped out every betrayal in my life. Angie, William, Emily, even Mark, my supposed brother, who'd tipped them off. But that text, one more name is hiding in the shadows, sat in my head like a splinter. That night, while Angie pretended to be on a late-night call with a wedding vendor, I dug deeper into Harris's files. He'd given me full access to his cloud account, so I could cross-check names. I pulled every message, every receipt, every photo. I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., bleary-eyed, I found it. Buried in the metadata of one of the screenshots, the one of Angie and William leaving the Airbnb, was a GPS tag. Nothing unusual there, except the photo had been uploaded from my father's phone. My father. I hadn't spoken much about him to Harris. Everyone knew him around town, respected businessman, pillar of the community. But what people didn't know was that he'd always disliked Angie, called her a distraction, tried to talk me out of the engagement more than once. And yet here he was, taking covert photos of her at William's hideout. My stomach dropped. Was he my anonymous ally, or something worse? I called Harris first thing in the morning. Check this, I said, sending him the file. He called back 5 minutes later. That's your old man's device, no question. But Alex, he's not just spying. Look at the financial records. He sent me another spreadsheet. My father's company had been doing business with William's shell companies for years. Contracts, transfers, even joint investments. William wasn't just my fiancé's boss. He was my father's business partner. And then it hit me. Of course, Dad had been pushing me to call off the wedding. Not because he cared about me, but because Angie's affair threatened his own dirty deals. Everything twisted at once. The hidden enemy wasn't just some random accomplice. It was family. Later that afternoon, Dad showed up at my apartment unannounced. He never did that. He walked in like he owned the place, wearing his usual too-perfect suit. We need to talk, he said flatly. I played dumb. About what? He shut the door. About your fiancé. About William. About how you're going to keep your mouth shut at the festival. There it was. No warm-up, no small talk. You knew? I asked, my voice shaking. He exhaled through his nose, like I was a stubborn child. Of course I knew. She's been screwing him for months. I warned you. You didn't listen. Now everything's at risk. I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. Risk? You mean your business deals with William? His eyes flicked up. For the first time, he looked rattled. Stay out of this, Alex, he said. End the engagement quietly. We'll pay her off. You'll move on. I'll handle William. You don't need to ruin your life over this. I stared at him, feeling the last bit of my old self snap. No, I said. I'm not staying quiet anymore. He stepped closer, voice low. You don't know who you're dealing with. Oh, I said, meeting his gaze. I think I finally do. He left without another word. I called Harris immediately. He's in it, I said. Harris didn't even sound surprised. Then we go bigger. We don't just expose Angie and William at the festival. We take your father down too. For the first time in weeks, my fear turned into something else. A kind of fierce, steady fire. This wasn't just a breakup anymore. This was a reckoning. The week before the festival felt like walking through a minefield with a smile plastered on my face. Everyone in town was buzzing with rumors, and every time I stepped outside, I felt eyes on me. Some looked sympathetic, some curious, some just hungry for drama. Angie, for her part, turned into a master performer. She doubled down on the innocent bride act, posting gushy updates about counting down the days until forever on social media. She even uploaded a photo of us together at brunch, captioned, "Stronger than ever ring #LoveWins." The comments section was a war zone, half people cheering, half calling her a liar. I didn't say a word. Let them think I was still clueless. It made the setup easier. Meanwhile, William had gone radio silent. His car was spotted around town less and less, and Harris told me his office had suspiciously misplaced a bunch of financial files. Damage control, no doubt. But Harris wasn't just watching him. He was baiting him, sending anonymous emails, hinting that we had more dirt than we really did. The goal was to keep William desperate and paranoid until the festival. My father, on the other hand, wasn't hiding at all. He called me twice that week, each time more threatening than the last. "Alex," he said during the last call, voice tight with rage, "if you go through with this circus, you'll regret it. You'll lose me. You'll lose everything I've built for this family. Do you understand?" For the first time in my life, I didn't cower. "Then I guess I lose you," I said, and hung up. Mark tried reaching out too, acting innocent, as if he hadn't already tipped William off. He texted, "Bro, I'm worried about you. Don't let this consume you." I didn't reply. I saved the message, another piece of evidence of who was where when things went down. By Friday, Harris and I had everything in place. We'd rigged the sound system at the festival stage to run a presentation. Screenshots, bank transfers, photos, all queued up to drop when I gave the signal. The festival committee had no idea, but Harris had people working the tech booth. "Once it's live," Harris told me, "you won't be able to stop it. Everyone will see. Everyone will know." That night, I stared at myself in the mirror. The guy looking back wasn't the quiet, accommodating Alex people had always known. He looked harder, sharper, like someone forged in betrayal and fire. Then Angie knocked on the door. She was in pajamas, holding 2 mugs of tea. She looked almost tender. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. I nodded, even though I knew this was part of her performance. She sat across from me, hands wrapped around the mug like she needed the warmth. "I don't know what's happening to us," she whispered, eyes glistening. "People are trying to tear us apart. But I love you, Alex. You believe that, don't you?" It would have been convincing, once. But I'd read her texts, seen her plans. She didn't love me. She loved what she thought she could get out of me. Still, I played along. I nodded, reached across the table, squeezed her hand. "Of course I believe you," I said, forcing my voice to sound steady. Inside, I was already picturing the look on her face tomorrow, when the curtain lifted, when the lies collapsed, when she realized the quiet guy she thought she could use had teeth. Tomorrow, at the festival, the world would see the truth, and none of them would ever forget it. The morning of the festival, the city felt different. The streets were buzzing, stalls going up, music already echoing from the square. For everyone else, it was a day of food trucks, fireworks, and fun. For me, it was execution day. I dressed carefully, not like a man about to be humiliated, but like someone who meant business. Clean button-down, dark jeans, nothing flashy. Harris met me near the main stage, already fiddling with the sound system. "It's set," he said, patting his laptop bag. "All you have to do is give me the signal." My chest was tight, but I nodded. By noon, the square was packed. Families, couples, kids with sticky fingers from cotton candy. The mayor was on stage giving the usual dull speech about community pride and tradition. Angie was nearby, playing the perfect fiancée. She wore a bright summer dress, smiled for selfies, clung to my arm whenever anyone glanced our way. Her eyes, though, they flickered with nerves. William arrived shortly after. Not with his wife, of course. He kept to the edges of the crowd, sunglasses on, jaw tight. But I saw him, and he saw me. Our eyes locked for a second too long. And in that moment, I knew he was waiting for something, waiting to see if I'd fold. Then came my father, striding in like he owned the place, shaking hands, laughing with city officials. He didn't look nervous. He looked smug, like he'd already decided I wouldn't dare go through with it. The tension was unbearable. Everywhere I turned, I heard whispers. "That's him. The groom. Wonder if the wedding's still on." I heard she cheated with her boss. "No, it's just rumors." Emily was there too, hovering close to Angie, whispering in her ear like some loyal sidekick. When she spotted me, she offered a brittle smile, but her eyes gave her away. She knew something was coming. Harris leaned close. We can drop the files during the mayor's speech. Or we can wait until the talent show portion. More eyes, more phones recording. Your call. I hesitated. Then Angie made the decision for me. She tugged my hand, pulled me toward the stage. Alex, she said loudly, her voice sugar-sweet but pitched just high enough for others to overhear. Don't you think we should tell everyone how excited we are for the wedding? Put these stupid rumors to rest. It was a move. A bold one. She wanted to trap me in a public declaration, force me to defend her in front of the whole town. I smiled at her, the kind of smile that hides knives. You're right, I said. Let's tell them everything. Her face flickered, just for a second, before she recovered. The crowd parted as we approached the stage. My father watched with narrowed eyes. William adjusted his sunglasses. Harris's finger hovered over the laptop, waiting. The mayor handed me the microphone. Well, here's our groom-to-be. Care to say a few words? I looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of faces staring back, hungry for drama. Angie squeezed my hand, thinking she'd won. I raised the mic to my lips. My voice was steady. Yes, I said. There's something I need to tell you all. Behind me, Harris hit the first key. The screens flickered to life, and the truth began to bleed out in front of everyone. The first image on the giant screen was almost tame. Angie and William at dinner, his hand on hers across the table. At first, people chuckled nervously, like it was some weird slideshow mistake. Then the next slide appeared. A hotel bill and William's name. Dates that overlapped with Angie's supposed girls' nights. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Angie's grip on my arm went rigid. Alex, she hissed through her smile. What the hell are you doing? I leaned into the mic, my voice calm, amplified across the square. They told me to keep quiet, to pretend nothing was happening. But the truth always finds its way out. Another slide. Text messages. Angie's words glowing in front of hundreds of people. Once I'm married, we can use his money to finally get out. He's so clueless. The crowd erupted. Gasps, whispers, outright shouts. Phones came up, recording, streaming. William pushed through the crowd, ripping off his sunglasses, face red as fire. Turn that off, he barked, voice cracking. But Harris kept the feed rolling. Slide after slide. William's shell companies, bank transfers, Angie's signatures on bogus reports. The whispers shifted to outrage, then to horror. It wasn't just gossip anymore. It was fraud. It was corruption. Stop this, Alex. Angie shrieked, her perfect mask gone. She clawed at my arm, eyes wild. You'll ruin me. I pulled free, holding the mic steady. You ruined yourself. Then came the slide I hadn't seen before. Harris had slipped it in without telling me. A photo of my father shaking hands with William in front of one of the shell company offices. The caption below, joint investors since 2019. The crowd turned. Eyes went to my father, who stood frozen, pale but trying to force a smile. He raised his hands, shouting, "This is fake. Lies. Don't listen." But his voice was drowned by the uproar. People he'd shaken hands with minutes ago were already stepping back, faces twisted in disgust. And then, chaos. William lunged toward the stage, shouting at Harris to shut it down. Angie broke into sobs, dropping to her knees, begging me to fix this. My father shoved through the crowd, yelling at me that I didn't understand what I'd done. But I stood tall, the mic still in my hand. For months, they thought I was too quiet, too weak to fight back. But today, everyone sees the truth, and I'm done being their victim. The last slide hit the screen. A simple sentence in bold white letters. The quiet ones always hit hardest. The square was bedlam, people shouting, filming, reporters pushing forward. Police officers began moving in, drawn by the evidence of fraud flashing openly. My father tried to leave, but the crowd swarmed. William was dragged back by officers. Angie collapsed in tears, screaming that she didn't know. And me? I felt lighter. Like for the first time in months, the weight wasn't mine anymore. I dropped the mic. The crowd roared. The days after the festival were a blur of flashing lights, headlines, and sirens. By the time I woke up the next morning, the entire city knew. Local boss exposed in public scandal. Bride-to-be caught in fraud and affair. Business titan under investigation. William was arrested first. The police had been sniffing around him for months, But the festival gave them everything they needed, evidence dumped in front of the public like confetti. His wife returned quietly with the kids, looking like she'd aged a decade. Angie tried to contact me from the police station, begging me to tell them she was innocent, that she hadn't really known. But Harris's files told a different story, her signatures, her texts, her complicity. My father wasn't in cuffs, but his empire cracked overnight. Business partners pulled out, contracts vanished, and for the first time in my life, I saw him stripped of his armor. He came to my apartment once, no bodyguards, no suit, just an old man with tired eyes. "You destroyed me," he said, voice low and broken. I looked him in the eye and said the words I'd been carrying for years. "No, you destroyed yourself. I just stopped covering for it." He left without another word. As for Angie, her fall was the hardest. Friends unfollowed, family members disowned, wedding vendors canceled without refund. The house she wanted us to move into? Gone. Her Instagram, once a shrine to curated happiness, turned into a battlefield of angry comments and public shame. She texted me once more, "You'll regret this. You'll end up alone." But I didn't feel alone. Something strange happened after the festival. People I'd barely spoken to reached out. Strangers stopped me in the street to say, "You did the right thing." For once, I wasn't invisible. For once, the quiet guy wasn't pitted. He was respected. Mark tried to apologize, babbling about being pressured, about how he didn't mean it. I didn't scream, didn't fight. I just told him calmly, "We're done." Losing fake friends didn't feel like loss. It felt like freedom. And then came the unexpected part. A few days later, the anonymous ally finally revealed themselves. It wasn't Harris. It wasn't some stranger. It was William's own assistant, fed up after years of watching him ruin people's lives. She'd gathered the files and waited for the right moment, then found me. "You weren't supposed to just survive this," she told me when we met. "You were supposed to win." And somehow I had. I didn't get my wedding, my old friends, or my father's approval. But I walked away with something better: dignity, strength. The knowledge that I could stand in front of a city, bear my wounds, and still walk away whole. Weeks later, I went back to the festival grounds. Empty now, the stage dismantled, food wrappers fluttering in the breeze. I stood in the middle of the square and breathed. For the first time in a long time, the silence wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. The quiet one had spoken, and the world had listened.